$400,000. That is what the top 1% of salespeople in the US earn a year. And today, I'm gonna share 25 different tips so you can get the top 1% as well and get ahead of the other 99%. Hey, I'm Marcus Shan, founder of Bentley Consulting Group, in which we provide modern sales training coach for reps and teams so you can blow out your sales targets so you can become a top 1% sales pro. Now, prior to this, I was in corporate sales leadership for over 13 years, in which I was a consistent top 1% performer and earner at 2 different Fortune 500 companies. And these are companies that have literally hundreds, if not thousands of reps I was competing with to get into the top percentile. Now, here's the thing. I didn't start off day one in sales being the best. In fact, it was actually the opposite. I actually almost got fired in the first couple of months. Just trying to get my head above water seemed impossible. If I knew what I know now, I would have got to the top much faster. So if you're struggling right now, just know there's hope. And today I'm gonna share with you 25 very specific tips you can apply immediately to get results. If you watch to the very end, you'll also learn the greatest cheat code in the top 1% and actually staying there. Let's dive in. Number 1. Treat sales like a career and not just a job. The crazy part is a lot of salespeople who end up going to sales, they just treat it like another job. So they are not focused on actually trying to improve their skills, trying to do well. They basically just do the bare minimum. This is why so many companies put so much emphasis on the activity game, micromanaging people, or the KPIs, or different dashboards. Focus on activity. So when you think about this, think about anybody who treats their profession as a craft, as something that's really important, as a career. So for example, if you think about an elite top basketball player like LeBron James, he's not just on during the games, he's on all the time. He's focused on constantly improving his game, improving his skills. He's getting different coaches. He's watching his health. He's watching his nutrition. He's learning from different people. And this is what it takes to become the best in the game. If you want to be in the top 1% in your career, you must actually treat it like a career and not just another job. Number 2, you must believe you can always improve. This is a level of mindset where most people struggle with this, especially if they've been in sales for a while. If they've been in sales for a while, you might be thinking, I'm already doing pretty good. I don't know if I can get better. Let me just maybe read some books here. But I think overall I'm doing pretty good. And the reality is, if your income is stagnating or hasn't really improved drastically over the time, that means you probably don't truly believe you can improve. Now, I'll give you a really simple example. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a salesperson, and he was 59 years old. He's an account executive, and he'd been in sales for literally over 20 plus years. And it was interesting was, for the longest time, I've always done pretty well, pretty consistent with his results, doing decently well, but he just thought he was pretty good, that he could no longer really improve. But then he just started paying really close attention to what other people were earning, and he realized by paying close attention, there were people at his company literally earning 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x what he was earning. And because he was so focused on just his little bubble, he didn't really think that there's an opportunity to even get better. And he would just create reasons in his mind of why those other people were more successful, whether they had a better territory, whether they had a better manager, or they had better leads, or better whatever. The truth is, what he realized was, shoot, I can actually get better. I can actually improve my skills. If there's people who are earning more than me and they're achieving more than me, frankly, they probably know more than me, they're probably doing more than me, and they probably have different skill levels far beyond me. So this is really key, because when you understand, internalize this, you'll do different things that actually improve your skills. So you have to believe you can constantly improve. And Tony Robbins had a really great phrase he called CANI. Constant and never-ending improvement, CANI. And if you have that level of mind space, that means you're going to be more open and receptive to learning new things and trying new things that actually improve your results. Number 3, take 100% responsibility for your success and focusing on 1% better daily. It is so easy to find reasons to not be successful. And if you think about it, especially in sales, there are many things that are really uncontrollable. For example, you can't control the market. You can't control your prospects if they have a bad day. You can't control if the company has PMF or not. You can't control if the marketing is bad or good. You can't control if your manager's not good. You can't control if the resources are good or not provide your company. All you can really control are your attitude and your actions. And if you internalize this, that means you'll take 100% responsibility for your own success. And I'll give you a really simple example. In my very first company I went to go work for, it was a Fortune 500 company, but it was a startup division of a Fortune 500 company. So I'm thinking I'm going to walk in and have all these amazing resources from the other part of the business. But walking in, we didn't have PMF. My boss had never done the job before. There was really no training. The manual they gave me, their sales manual they gave me, was written by people who never done the sales job before. And no one really knew what to do. And on top of that, this is during the 2007 recession when I got started in sales. And on top of that as well, I had the smallest territory. So here I'm thinking to myself of all these reasons to not be successful. And for the first several months, all I did was blame and complain about everything. I took zero ownership and responsibility. But what's interesting is once I made that shift to just take 100% responsibility of everything, the failures, the results, that's when things start to really change. And it's really powerful when you start thinking this way because this applies to everything in life. So whether there's anything good or bad that happens, if you're like, it's my fault, I can fix it, I can do better, it's amazing the shift in your mind space. And I'll give you a simple example. I remember a few years back, I was driving with my family, we're at a stoplight, and a car comes from behind and didn't stop, and they rear-end my family and I. And obviously my wife was upset, my kid was upset. Now we're totally fine. It was actually really minor damage to the car in the grand scheme of things. And they filed a claim and did all that stuff as well. And my wife was like, wow, why are you not more upset? And I was like, at the end of the day, I'm like, it was my fault. She was like, what? What are you talking about? That person rear-ended you, rear-ended us. That wasn't your fault at all. Like, you were stopped, you had the right of way, you shouldn't have stopped. They didn't stop, they just kept going. And I said, yeah, I get that. But if I believe it's their fault, which obviously we believe it for filing the claim, but if I believe that it's actually my fault in terms of the responsibility, not because the guy hit me, but it's my fault in the sense of I decided to leave at that time to leave the house with us together versus leaving 5 minutes earlier, 5 minutes later, then it gives me more control in my life. And she's like, huh, that's interesting. So I was like, yeah, I understand that the guy actually hit me. That's actually his fault. But it was my choice to leave at a specific time and be in that situation. And obviously I can't predict the future, but what's powerful is when you start thinking this way, you're always thinking, wow, what else can I take ownership for and control for? This is obviously a controversy for some people, but when you think this way, it's amazing how much ownership you take in your own life. Because now, when there are external things you can't control, you can still focus on, I can't control that, but what can I control? My actions, my attitudes, I can focus on becoming 1% better every single day. If I focus on doing that, what ends up happening is, when you fast forward that compounding effect, 5 or 10 years down the road, you're gonna be far superior in skills, mindsets, and habits and routines versus anybody else who's not thinking that way. Number 4, do what it takes to be successful and not just your best. The mistake I hear some people make is, I'm doing my best. I'm trying really hard. I have really crazy activity. Oh man, like I'm outworking everybody. But how many times have you seen the top performers outwork everybody purely from an activity perspective? It's very rare. Most of the time, they're just far more skilled and they're far better than you, and that's why they're outperforming you. I'll give you a simple example. When I got started in sales, again, I blamed everyone. I complained and I was like, they're not working as hard as me. I'm outworking everybody. I had the worst results. But the truth was, I just wasn't not that good. So my best simply wasn't good enough. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but because I took 100% ownership, it made me do different things. For example, what most people would do is after they get off work, they go to the bars, they go party, do whatever, right? Early on, that's exactly what I did. But I started to realize, I'm like, I need to get better at my job. I need to actually get skilled. So what did I do after hours? Well, I would go to the library, I would get books, I would invest into courses, conferences, I would go and learn more. I would even role play for hours in front of the mirror, different parts of the sales process, literally for hours over and over, because I wanted to get it dialed from anything from discovery to my pitch. I wanted to get to a point where it was pure muscle memory. And because I was doing what it took to actually be successful, not just trying my best. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, because sometimes, frankly, your best or my best is just not good enough. Number 5, find something that works and consistently apply it. What's crazy is sometimes I'll meet people who had some success early on, and then suddenly they're not successful anymore. And they're like, well, what happened? What was different? And the things that they were doing prior, they're just no longer doing. It's if you eat really clean and you're really disciplined and you work out consistently, and fast forward a year or 2 years, you're in the best shape of your life. If you stop doing those things that made you successful, obviously your results are going to get worse. And sales is no different. I've seen myself do the same thing, fall for that same mistake, where if suddenly my close ratio dips, I'm like, that's really strange. I can blame it. I can blame the market. I can blame the product. I can blame everything. But when I actually go back and watch my own sales recordings, I'll realize, crap, I probably could have gone deeper in my discovery here. I probably could have said a better agenda here. I probably could have asked better questions here. I probably could have been more succinct with my presentation here. And I share that with you because when you find something that works and you're consistent with it, it's amazing how the results compound. But if you're not careful, sometimes we'll stop doing those things. And as a result, we stop getting the same result we got to begin with because we're not consistent anymore. Number 6, prioritize being successful versus just looking successful. I can't tell you the number of times where I'm taking over a sales team and I'm talking to the reps, and some of them will just posture and try to act as if they're really good. They'll want to wear the nicest clothes, have the nicest timepieces, the nicest cars. They want to just look a certain look. However, when you dig into it, their results and performance is actually quite subpar. And the reality is when you focus so heavily on just that external appearance, without actually being really good at your craft and being really successful, you won't be able to actually stay successful. It's the same thing where you look at the wealthiest people in the world. When you look at them, they look like they're wearing pretty regular, normal clothes. They look like just like another Tom, Joe, Jerry, Lisa down the street. But when you meet the middle class people, they have the nicest cars, the nicest clothes, the flashiest, blingiest things. So they look really rich. But at the end of the day, are they? So I share that with you because oftentimes, especially in sales where people try to act overly confident and they try to posture quite a bit, if you just focus that energy on being really great at what you do and not worried about trying to look successful, it's amazing how much better at your craft you can actually get. Number 7, demand excellence from yourself. One of the greatest things you can do for yourself is to raise your expectation of yourself. And I know some of you haters out there are gonna be like watching like, no, if you set the bar too high, then you're gonna disappoint yourself. I 100% disagree with that. You should demand excellence of yourself. When you start living to a higher standard for everything that you do, it starts to come forth across the board. For example, whatever you say you do, think about that. If you just did that, how incredible would your life become? You promised something to your spouse and you did it, amazing. You promised something to your boss and you did it, amazing. And we started thinking about this. This is what the elite do. They demand excellence of themselves. They have a higher standard of themselves. And the issue that most people have is they have a very low standard expectation for themselves. They're like, oh, I'm gonna set a low goal. My goal is just to hit quota. Well, here's the reality. That's a very low goal. You should always be shooting for 2, 3, 4, 500% to your target every single time. Because yes, for sure, it's not about necessarily the end result, but when you go for something higher and you're rating your standard for yourself, you end up achieving far more than you. I'll give a really simple example. I grew up really poor. If you took a look at my very first house I grew up in, and it's in a terrible neighborhood in Springfield, Oregon, kids literally dealing drugs right around their bad neighborhood. If my expectation for myself was like, when I get older, I'm an adult, I'm hopefully kind of be kind of a place like maybe like a place around this, maybe a little better, then I would in no way have a life I have today. I would in no way would have challenged myself to grow to create the life I have today as a result. And what's amazing is when you demand excellence of other people as well, people will also improve with you because a rising tide lifts all ships. You become an inspiration to other people. You are one of the top people at your company. What happens is you'll attract other people just like that, and they'll raise everyone up. Number 8, this is super tactical, but review your numbers consistently. You don't have to memorize all your numbers and be like the Rain Man, if you will, but you want to consistently review your numbers. For example, every single day, I would always review exactly what my targets are. And again, my targets are not hitting quotas. Quotas here for me, all right? I'm going for way higher than that, all right? I'm reviewing what my targets are and where I'm at and making plans of what I need to do differently to get to that point. And to this day, I still do the same thing for my own business. I do the same thing even with cash flow. Because when you actually pay close attention to where you are and where you're going to go, It's amazing the shift in behavior. If you want to lose weight, and if every single day you stepped on a scale and wrote it down and took a picture of yourself naked, how fast do you think you'll improve your results? Because it becomes very painful when you realize where you truly are at, if there's a big deficit between where you are and where you want to go. So this is one of the things I highly recommend, is you review your numbers consistently so you always know where you are and what you need to do to get there. If you ask any top performer, they almost always know exactly what their numbers are. Number 9, focus on being productive and not just busy. As a sales professional, you are very busy. You're pulled many different ways, from your manager, from prospects, to people on your teams, to probably a lot of useless meetings. One of the most important things you can do is focus on being highly productive versus just busy. That means micromanaging your calendar and only doing the IPAs, income producing activities. And I break that down to 4 key buckets. Number 1, you're generating pipeline. Number 2, you're moving deals in your pipeline. Number 3, you're closing pipeline. Or number 4, you're advancing your sales skills. If you look at your calendar, in the perfect world, you have 100% of your calendar focus on that. How much more productive would you actually become? Obviously, I know you have other meetings, you have admin stuff that's going to happen because obviously you work for a company, not just for yourself. But let's just imagine if you shoot for 100%, and if you get to say 50% of your week is now focused on IPAs, you're going to get better results than anybody else who's not focused on that, who's waking up with zero intention. Number 10, take action even when you don't feel like it. If I only took action when I felt like it, I would get nothing done. And the top performers in any field, whether it's sports, business, sales, they are able to take action regardless of how they feel. If you're waking up and you have a plan to prospect from 8 to 10 in the morning, and you're like, oh, I'm a little tired, I didn't really sleep that great, my kiddo kept me up all night, they were sick, I think I'm just gonna push out prospecting. The reality is that you no longer demand excellence of yourself, and you're gonna ultimately push things off, and you're training your own mind to basically find reasons, excuses to not do the things you're supposed to do. If you want to get in the top 1%, it requires you to take the action regardless of how you feel. And this applies to everything that you're supposed to be doing, whether it's asking the difficult questions in a sales process, to prospecting, to simply having your calendar plan and simply executing the plan. And here's the beautiful part about this. 99% of people out there will not do this. In fact, when they don't feel great, they're feeling tired, or they're feeling not 100%, they don't do these things. So if you know that to be the case, this is a competitive advantage for you to always get ahead. You simply just take action regardless of how other people feel. Number 11, wake up and live with clear intention. Most people, when they wake up, they just say, oh, what am I going to do? Let me just pull up Slack, let me pull up my email, and that determines how the rest of their day goes. One of the great things you can do for yourself is have really clear with exactly what your intention is for the day and setting that intention. Because if you wake up and you're on the wrong side of the bed, you're like, this day is terrible, the chances of your day going great from that point are very slim. Instead, you want to wake up and have clear intention with what you're going to do. For instance, one of the things I do, which is really simple, is I plan tomorrow today. So at the end of each day, for just 10, 15 minutes, I literally review my calendar for the next day, see what I'm doing that day. I'll review my key priorities for the overall business for the next 12 or next 13 weeks. And then I'll plug in block any open spot to have with specific things I'm gonna be focused on in that on time blocks on the next day. So that way, when I wake up, I don't need to make a decision. My intention is as simple as I'm gonna execute what's on my calendar because it's already pre-planned. So there's zero decisions to be made. This is really powerful because before I did this, I would wake up, not really have an intention. I would pull up my phone, check my email, and based off that, became kind of a reactive day. And at the end of the day, if you live with intention, it's amazing how much more productive you can be because you were intentional before the day even started. Number 12, learn from mistakes and keep going. I'm not perfect by any means. My wife tells me all the time. But the cool part is when you make mistakes, those are opportunities to learn. And when you make mistakes, which you will, and you should be making mistakes as you're putting yourself out there, you want to learn from your mistakes. Now, the mistake a lot of people make is when they make a mistake, oh shoot, this happened, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have asked that weird question, oh, I should have been more prepared. They don't learn from that mistake. And what they end up doing, they keep repeating the same mistake over and over, and then wonder, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. All you really need to do is be aware of the mistake. If you make a mistake, write it down, and then decide, what am I going to do differently to prevent this from happening? That's it. It's not rocket science. And this is actually why it's really important that you have a consistent way to reflect back on the mistake that you're making so you can improve every single day. So for instance, what I do with some of my clients is I actually do what's called a win journal. Every single day, they just write down one win from the day and one learning from the day. So that way, that learning is really a potential mistake that they made, so they can take that learning and apply it to the next day. And when you bring massive awareness to yourself like this, it's amazing how much better you actually become, because most people are unwilling to do that. So because of that, they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. So early, this is years ago, I was trying to get really healthy and lose some weight because I would overeat. I realized whenever we had chips or crackers or snacks, and I love salty and savory snacks, I would just crush it. I would eat the whole bag of chips because I just love savory things. If it was sweet, same thing. If it's candy, if it's cinnamon rolls, I would demolish it. And I kept doing this over and over, and I would go to Costco, get these like snacks, have them in the house, and then of course, crush all the snacks. I kept doing it without thinking about it. And then I'm like, man, what's wrong with me? Why can't I control these urges? Why do I keep overeating? And I realized I was making the same mistake, and I had to do something different. So instead of just trying to willpower my way through this, I'm like, what can I do differently? What if I just remove it from the house? What if I just stop ordering those snacks? So my wife and I decided to actually remove all the snacks from the house. And what happened the first time I got that urge? Friction. It wasn't in the house. I had to leave the house to go get snacks, in which I was like, at that point, I'm like, screw it. That's gonna be too much effort. I share that with you because when you keep making the same mistakes, and if you pay close attention, you'll realize there's usually a cause and effect. And once you realize the cause, how can you learn from that mistake to improve your own game in whatever it is you're trying to improve? Number 13, focus on being genuine. Now, in today's time, a lot of people, when they watch YouTube videos or they see maybe other top salespeople, they try to imitate them, try to be like them. And the truth is, there's no one quite like you. And when you try too hard to be somebody else in a sales process and you are inauthentic to you, your prospect will feel that. So for instance, for some people, they think if they're more introverted, they're thinking, I need to be outgoing, I need to act a certain way, I need to be over the top. And then they try to do that. And what happens is it comes off very disingenuous. Versus if they're just more inquisitive, they're more quiet, more introverted, which is I'm an ambivert, so I'm more on the introverted side. That is actually better for me. And I found early on when I was trying to be that extroverted person, just being way over the top, it just felt fake. And if you want to be really great at sales, I have found the top salespeople consistently are really confident who they are, and they show up the way that they are as a genuine human being. So if they're an introverted person, that's cool. They internalize, they embrace, and they show up as that person. If they're extroverted, they do the same thing. If they're an ambivert, they show up and do the same thing. My point to you is, if you want to be truly elite, you have to be you. And your prospect will feel that, and they'll see that because it'll reflect through in how you do everything, from how you write to how you have conversations with that prospect. Number 14, innovate instead of following the crowd. So it's really easy just to follow whatever's on LinkedIn and just use the same thing that everyone's telling you about. However, if you just do what everyone else is doing, then you're going to blend in with the crowd. This is why it's just really key to actually innovate and to challenge yourself and to think of new ways of doing things that can be different than what everyone else is doing. This sets you apart from everyone. I'll give you a simple example. So this is years ago, and I remember this is 2011. I just joined a brand new company, and they were super old school. They've been around since the 1930s, and their demo deck was, no joke, a physical binder with slides that they flip through, just so they flip like this, and super old school. And I'm like, this is crazy. And again, this is 2011, right? This is over a decade ago, but I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That's like, to me, it's like wildly unprofessional. I mean, they literally still, at that point, even use like paper agreements for signatures. It was crazy. Anyways, besides my point. So what did I do? Because I wanted to have things stand out. What I did was I literally went and created my own demo deck. A demo deck I could use on my iPad, pull up very easily, flow through, and have it flow in the way I want it to flow. That was different than everybody else. And what was interesting was, by simply doing this, it made me look more professional. I felt better, and it was better for the prospect experience as well. While everybody else was still doing the same binder thing. And what's interesting was, because then once I started showing people what I was doing, they're like, wow, it's really amazing. It helped improve them as well, especially for the part of their pitch. And this is where it's okay to innovate. It's okay to think differently outside the box, because when you start doing this way, from prospecting to how you run your sales calls to how you engage and interact with prospects, it's amazing how much more you'll stand out. Number 15, appreciate the good in everything, including the process. One of the great things you can do is have gratitude, because as you're upskilling and you're increasing your income and your earnings, it's really important to be present and just have major gratitude for where you are. This helps you eliminate some of the negative feelings that you might have if you're not performing well, if you had a rough day or a rough week, because when you have major appreciation in the good and everything, including the process, it's amazing how much more abundant you actually feel. This is why every single day I'll journal and I'll write down what I'm grateful for, what I appreciate about the day. And sometimes it's just a nice conversation with the prospect, whether it closed or not. It could be that I have running water, right? Electricity, to I live in a beautiful house, to I have a beautiful family, to I felt energized today, to I stuck to my routine. And when you start thinking this way, it's amazing how much better you're going to feel, versus the opposite, which is you focus on the lack, which you don't have. When you focus on scarcity, it comes through in your sales process. And I've found the most elite salespeople are really grateful. They're really grateful for what they have, for what they have achieved, and they know they must earn it every single day. On the flip side, if they didn't think that way and they were entitled, egotistical, it also comes through in the whole sales process as well. Number 16, acknowledge that life is not fair. There's gonna be times where your territory is gonna change, things are gonna change, compounds are gonna change, and you're gonna be like, that is not fair, and you'll get negative. And it's happened many times in my career where I get very upset where my compound has changed and now suddenly my quota is double what it used to be before. They're expecting me to perform at the same level, if not greater, and to earn less money, which is always not fair at all. However, if you realize it is what it is, it's just part of the game, it's amazing how much more you can detach from the outcome and focus on just showing me the best version of you. Because if you focus on all the energy into how it's not fair, it actually distracts you from what needs to be done. I'll give you a really simple example. I remember had this really great rep, usually consistent top performer, and there were some comp plan changes and some territory changes that were outside of our control. This rep allowed us to stick with them and bother them for literally for 10, 12 plus weeks, for about a quarter or so. And they kept complaining about it nonstop, and the performance was going down because of it. And fast forward, the whole quarter's over and we're talking, and they're frustrated. And they're like, oh, my comp is worse, the territory's bad, and they're making all these excuses. And I said, those are all true, so now what? And they're like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm like, okay, so if you continue to complain, what's going to happen? I guess my performance will keep going down. If that happens, what's the results going to be like? Well, it's not going to be good. If that happens, what's going to happen to your income? It's going to go down. If that happens, how will that impact you? He's like, yeah, it's actually really bad for me. In the grand scheme of things, I know it's annoying, the comp plan changed, the territory has changed, but does that really change anything for you personally? He's like, really, I still need to show up, still need to deliver, but ultimately I'm making less money now because I wasn't even showing up, and you're right, I'll just drive for way too long. And he had this realization, yeah, things are sometimes it's not fair, but you gotta just deal with it. That's part of life. And I share that with you because you will be thrown things in your life where that is not fair, this is crazy, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? And what are you going to do about it? Because even though you may not be in the most favorable circumstances, where you go ultimately determined based off your actions, your attitude. So you can choose to sit in the moment and be frustrated, angry, and mull over it, or you can just accept and realize, hey, you know what? It is what it is. Let me take 100% ownership and keep going and figure it out from here. Because at the end of the day, that tough situation, other people have dealt with in the past before as well, and it's up to you now to make a change for them. Number 17, be proactive in every situation. One of the greatest things you can do is be massively proactive in everything that you do, from call prep to managing your territory, to working out, to your health, to everything. Because at the end of the day, if you can anticipate like a grand chess master 3 to 5 moves ahead, it's amazing how much better your life is. Because at the end of the day, when you're reactive and just waiting for things to come into your inbox, waiting for things to happen to you, it's really hard to get ahead in life. But if you're actually proactive, obviously it's far better in so many things outside of sales. Number 18, play the long game and be patient. This is from deals to your career. When you think about a longer time horizon and you're not just thinking about trying to close deals right now, you're focused on actually serving the customer and showing properly, it's amazing how much better you show up and how detached you are from the outcome and how much better the prospect experience is actually going to be, which increases your win rate. And this applies to your career as well. I remember early on, I was really gung-ho. I wanted to get promoted very quickly. I wanted to make a lot of money very, very quickly. But at the end of the day, sometimes having some patience can be really powerful because it teaches you quite a bit. I was really struggling for the first 3 months and I almost got fired. Then fast forward, in month number 4, I was number 1. That was number 3 months in a row. And then my manager asked me to go to another location and take over a small sales team and basically sell and manage a team at the same time. And I wanted to be promoted. I want to be the leader. I want to be the go-to guy. I wanted the title. I wanted the comp. I wanted all that. And my director came to me and said, hey, listen, this is an opportunity for you. I want you to show up, show us you can sell. You can also lead as well. And for me, I didn't have the patience for that. I remember like being really upset, really angry about that. And then after thinking about it for a while, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to show them how I can do it. And the cool part is when I made that shift over to a new territory and I was selling and leading people at the same time with no change in title, no change in comp, it made me better. It actually made me far better doing that. I learned more skills. I learned how to be a better leader as a result of that. And it really challenged me in new ways of learning how to influence laterally my peers. Most people are really good at influencing down, but I wasn't good at influencing laterally. By having this patience, it made me better, more skilled, all right? But if you think long-term wise, or even a career, having patience, this is really important too. A lot of people don't have patience, so they change companies over and over and over. And before you know it, let's say they have a 10-year career, they've changed companies like 6 to 8 times. If you've done that, it's no knock on you. But the tough part is if you don't have that patience to develop in that company, every time you restart over, it actually makes you take steps back because you have to restart your credibility, rebuild the territory, reestablish yourself, learn a new product, maybe learn a new industry, learn a new culture. It takes you back. Versus, for me, I worked for 2 companies in my 13-year corporate career. And the reason was because I was able to stack my equity in that company year by year to become the best version of me. But you learn so much by being able to have patience in one single industry, with one company, with the same people that you're working around over your whole career. Number 19, upgrade opportunity vehicles. But be very selective about this. Now, I know this may go against what I just mentioned about being patient and sticking it through with companies, but there's also a lot of power knowing when to make a move and be selective. As Warren Buffett said, it doesn't matter how hard you row, it matters which boat you get in. This is really powerful. Whatever opportunity vehicle you're in now, the key is you want to maximize that job to learn the skills that you can to really dominate in that role, to perform as high as levels you possibly can. And then if you earn the better opportunities, not just in how much money you make, but is it a better overall opportunity vehicle from maybe culture to upper mobility to whatever else is really important to you. For example, I went from my first opportunity vehicle, I'll say, was probably working at my parents' restaurant, making not very much money. Then the next opportunity vehicle was going into selling speedos at a swimsuit store, which is actually about the same amount of money, but I had to learn more skills. And then to become an intern at a car rental company, and then go into the truck division for B2B. And I did that for several years. And then from there, I went to a whole new company because they had more opportunity for more equity. But then I got to a point in my career where I'm like, okay, to make it to the next leap for my skills and for my income, my best opportunity vehicle is actually do my own thing. So I made these strategic calculated jumps because I saw the future opportunity could either advance my skills, have greater upside and greater reward, and potentially more benefits as well outside all those things. One of the key things is for top 1%ers, you want to be very aware of this as well, because you could be a top 1%er, but if you're selling something like that, so you make a $1 commission on and you can only make 20, 30K a year, being the top 1% there, if you're happy, that's cool. But if you want to really get the top 1% in income, 400K plus and beyond, you want to make sure you position yourself in the right type of opportunity vehicle. Number 20, respect yourself and others. Now, if you have met anybody who's in the top 1% in sales, you'll find most of them are pretty confident in themselves, but they also respect themselves. So meaning whatever they say, they do. And they do the same thing to other people as well. They treat other people with respect as well. To be kind to yourself, to respect yourself. And this doesn't happen overnight. I remember early on, I didn't feel worthy of success. So it took time for me to work on myself, but it showed up by doing the things every single day that I promised to myself. And the more you can respect yourself, the more you'll see in other people. Because ultimately, how can you expect other people to respect you if you don't respect yourself? Number 21, embrace discomfort for growth. This is so much like working out. When you work out in the gym, you're essentially stretching, you're breaking your muscles down. It's uncomfortable. But the really cool part is on the recovery side, the muscles grow and you get stronger. And this is no different than anything else. I've found, especially in sales, doesn't get easier, you simply get better. And that's how you want to start thinking about this. And you want to embrace discomfort. For example, I remember early on, it was really uncomfortable to ask tough questions. But I knew when I asked a tough question, I'll get really rich insight in the conversations, which would help me in the sales process. But now I'm to the point in my career where I don't really give a second thought to asking tough questions because it's part of what I do. I've embraced discomfort, and now I don't want to say it's easier, I'm simply better at doing it. If you want to get truly great, if you're not at the income level you're at, and you're not earning what you want to earn, and you're not performing the level you want to perform at, that means you need to embrace discomfort even more and do the hard things. And this applies to everything in life. Stay open to the possibility that you might be wrong. Most people are unwilling to admit that they're wrong, and that ultimately holds back their growth. I gave you the example of the 59-year-old earlier. For the longest time, he had that level of ego where he just thought he was doing everything right. But now, because he is staying humble, he's going to change his life. I'll give you another example. I have a client named Joe, and Joe, for the longest time, he had a bit of an ego. He was very confident. When he didn't perform, he always blamed the territory, the market, the company, whatever. And he always made a good income, about 120 to 150K a year, so a good, decent income. And he's a little bit older. He's probably 50 or so now. And what was interesting was he always had that ego. And then he started to think, what if there's other people who are doing better than me? What are they doing differently? So we started working with him a couple years ago, and he was a little hesitant to work with me because I'm younger than him. What can I learn from this young guy? But you know what? I'm going to bet on myself and see what happens, right? Within the first couple months, he literally shot to #1, started closing more business, right? Within 6 months, he closed the biggest deal in his career, earning over $600,000 in commissions alone off that single deal. And then fast forward, he's consistently, like clockwork, earning $30,000 to $40,000 per month in commissions alone. His income was literally 5x in 1 year, excluding that big, huge deal. And if he had not removed his ego, then he would not have been open to learn. But because he did that, his life is drastically different. He got to the point where his wife was able to retire from work. Now she just started her own business, doing whatever she wants. He's way happier. He's paid off all his debts. His life has drastically changed simply because he removed the ego. Number 23, live off your base and invest the rest. Now, I'm no financial advisor. I'm not an accountant, but one of the greatest things you can do for yourself is you live off your base and invest the rest. So as you start to make more money and you're investing in that money, it's going to make your lives so much easier if you're able to take those compounding returns. The mistake a lot of people make is as they make more money, they're spending all that money. But what happens is if you have that level of pressure internally of having a lot of bills to pay, a lot of expenses, that creates more pressure for you at work. And I'm an old school manager who believed the opposite, which was you should take on a lot of debt and that way you'll have pressure to perform. I think it's a terrible way to actually live, in my opinion. Instead, invest or live off your base. So that way, when you're stacking cash and you're investing it back and you're making money on all your returns, it's amazing how much more detached you can be from the outcome. There's a reason I was able to retire from corporate at 35 because I lived this principle for over a decade. It put me in a position to be able to make choices I want to make and have freedom to make that choice. If you just have excessive debt and you're basically just trying to keep up with the Joneses, that makes it really hard to actually detach from the outcome. You know there's a pressure of need to perform at a certain level. At the end of the day, like Jim Rohn said, when you work hard at your job, you make a living. When you work hard on yourself, you make a fortune. Obviously, sales is a very, very stressful career. You want to take the time to invest into your emotional, physical, mental, spiritual health. And that means different things for every single person. So whether that means not scrolling social media, to reading good books, to going to church, to doing whatever. But do the things that are going to help fill you up every single day, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, because this will give you energy. And when this gives you energy, it's far easier to show up and do the hard things regardless of how you feel. Number 25. Invest in high leverage skills. This is one of the greatest cheat codes you can do in life. It literally saves you time and money in the long run because you're learning from mistakes of other people. Some people say they are self-made. I am by no means self-made. I literally have stood on the shoulders of other giants and mentors. And that's why I personally have invested over $250,000 into myself from coaches, masterminds, and books and conferences over the years, because I know how important it is to learn from other people, because it's literally a cheat code to life. If they can help you shortcut your way to success, it's amazing how much better you can be. So that's why for you, especially if you're internalizing, you're owning your sales job as an actual career, take 100% ownership. Invest into yourself. This could be anything from books to free stuff like this, to courses, to coaches, to masterminds. And ultimately, as the saying goes, the greatest investment is always in yourself, because the cool part is when you actually invest into yourself, you get the returns that compound every single year. I remember being in my very first sales role, my first big investment was about $8,000 to go to a Tony Robbins conference. I literally couldn't afford to do that, pay for the trip and all those things, but I found the money to do it because I knew going to it would change my life. And it really did. It really shifted how I actually had to think about life. Some of these principles I even shared today are from my early on investments. And since then, I've continued to invest every single year because I know it's the best investment into myself. If you want to be a top 1%er, you must also invest like a top 1%er. You don't want to invest in how you are right now. You want to invest as if you're already at that mental level, because what happens is then you're acting in abundance to the best version of you. So there you have it, 25 tips to help you get to the top 1% of salespeople and beat out the other 99. If you want our help to get you in the top 1%, head below and book a call with my team below to see if it's a good fit for our coaching program. And if you want to see what's real to earn over $500K a year every single year, I'll see you in the next video right here.